So I finally got to see a film supposed to be called The Peninsula, but I guess in the American era it was retitled Train to Busan Presents The Peninsula, or Peninsula, I forget which way it goes. And I guess they really wanted to make sure you realize this was a sequel to Train to Busan. Now, the reason I really wanted to see this film is because I really like Train to Busan, and I think it goes on into the list of great zombie movies, and it's one of the best. And there's an interesting thing here with the sequel and how it applies to yet another zombie movie I recently reviewed called Army of the Dead, and we'll get to that later. But right off the bat, this movie is in no way on par with the original. The original was just such a really well done premise and what have you, and the performances were great, and just the mood and all of it, and the stakes and everything. It was just really, really good and very well done, and the concept of people trapped on a train and all that stuff with this going on. It was great. All right, so the sequel comes along, and its release got ruined, of course, by, a pandemic. Fortunately, not a zombie one, but nevertheless, everything was messed up for 2020, of course. So I guess they can always refer to that on whether or not it would have been more successful had it been a normal year. But what have you, that's the case as it is. The movie has some interesting aspects to it, and it doesn't copy the first movie at all, which is very good on their part. I don't know, could have been on a plane or on a boat or something. But the interesting thing why I mentioned Army of the Dead is because this too kind of takes a similar idea for the plot device. Is the movie starts out at back when the outbreak happened, and we center on this military officer who's trying to get his family out of Korea because there's no safe space there. It's overtaking the country, and they got to leave. And he's able to get them out, being in the military and whatnot. And along the way, with his family in his car, there's another family begs them to help them, let them come with them. The father has blood on his shirt, so he assumes he's been bitten or is infected or what have you. He swears he's not, but of course he can't trust him. The wife offers up their baby, says, "Would you please just take our daughter?" And he just drives on. Of course, this will become significant later. He gets on the boat, they escape, but someone is infected among the people escaping, and it attacks people and it breaks out. His sister's son gets bitten, and she won't leave him, so she stays there to be consumed by the other zombies. He's forced to shut the door on them. His brother-in-law comes screaming and panicking, and he has to stop him from going in there. He'll get himself killed. And that's the horrible thing. And all of that is pretty good stuff. That's probably some of the best performances and whatnot that they have about the horror and the sadness of everything that happens in these horrific conditions and all of that. But there was something that looks like it might have been sort of shoehorned in. And I don't know if that means it's like for the American version. There were some non-Asian characters in here briefly. And in fact, this mob boss they run into, he's there. But they cut to this news program that looks really cheaply done. It's kind of staggering because the rest of it is pretty good quality of set and effects and stuff here and there, but it basically it was kind of a recap of the events, and it was this guy being interviewed on this American news program, I guess, and he's explaining what happened to South Korea and then North Korea, which they didn't know too much about because, well, it's North Korea. And so anyway, the whole peninsula, which hence the name, is in quarantine. You can't go there. And if you come out of there, well, you're probably in trouble too. So the outbreak was managed so far to be contained within Korea. So we jump 4 or 5 years ahead, and the officer, Marine, whatever he was, and his brother-in-law are struggling to survive in Hong Kong, and they're treated like crap by the people there because everyone thinks they're possibly infected and all this sort of stuff, even though it's been so many years and nothing's happened. But so they've fallen on hard times, and they've gotten involved with the criminal underworld there. And so a mob boss says, listen, we know that there's this truck that had money in it, and we figured out where it is, and we're going to send you with a team of guys, and we want you to go get it, and then we'll get you back out of there. And it's not that far from the port, so you should be able to get to it rather quickly. And we're going to do it at night because the zombies are blind at night. They can't see very well at night. So you get in, you get the truck, you bring it to the port, and we load the money, and we'll give you $20 million out of the pile. And so they're like, well, all right, we really don't have much choice. And if they pissed off this gang, they'd probably be in trouble too. So they go to do this, and they find the money and everything, but of course everything goes wrong. And it turns out it's not just them and zombies. There's people who survived and have managed to protect themselves from the zombies. So there's some woman or girl rather watching them, calling them stupid, like they don't know what they're doing. But she doesn't know who they are. She thinks they're part of this militia that's formed from old Korean military that was left behind. And they've gone completely nuts. It's basically become sort of like a Mad Max world. And there's a lot of Road Warrior and Mad Max later in the story. But everything goes wrong. Most of the crew gets killed. His brother-in-law gets captured by the militia gang. He goes off with the girl and her sister. Now, the girl, of course, is just like this ultimate badass. She can drive that car like a pro, and just does impossible things with it. It's really over the top. And then her little sister uses her remote-controlled toys that have bright lights on it, makes noises, and this attracts the zombies away and stuff like that. They're practically superheroes in this. Plus, in a lot of things, the Marine guy, there's quite a few scenes, after that opening sad story that was so well done, then now he's kind of a superhero too. He's a martial arts badass and stuff like that. But anyway, so they get back they take him to where the girls are, and their mother has survived, and she's with her father, I believe, and that's their grandfather, and he's seemingly insane. He keeps saying he's hearing messages on his radio. He just needs batteries to do it, but no one else ever hears this woman named Janet or Jane, I can't remember, and they think he's just out of his gourd. Turns out it's true, but that's how it goes. Well, the woman turns out to be the woman that he turned down, wouldn't let her get in his car back when he was escaping and take their daughter. So the daughter's all grown up now. And there's two daughters, so I don't know which one it was. I guess it would be the other one. Anyway, and obviously the husband's not there, so he died. And now he's like, oh crap. So it's kind of, there is some cleverness to this, that he's paying the price for what he did, for not helping them out earlier. And so he's guilt-ridden about what happened to his sister and nephew, and now about his brother-in-law. He keeps trying to protect his brother-in-law, and so he'll do everything for him out of respect for his sister, and this is all he's got left. And he's kind of he is a broken man, no doubt about it, and the guilt weighs on him heavily. And here he is confronted with this woman, and he's like, oh, shit. So there's that aspect of this really good. And then so now you got to have the rescue of the brother-in-law. They want to get the money back, and he tells them what the deal is. If we can get the satellite phone, they had one of those, we can contact the ship and get out of here. So, okay, we're going to do that. But you got to deal with this crazy militia that are all nuts, and they've got their own little conflicts going on within. The brother-in-law is put into this gladiatorial contest with zombies, him and a bunch of others, and they just take bets on who will last the longest. All that is crazy and stuff. And meanwhile, the actual captain of the group, he discovers the money truck and the satellite phone, realizes, hey, we can get out of here, and all of that stuff. So it's just a constant shuffling around of who can get out first. Meanwhile, the actual thugs never figure it out. And that's kind of the weak part. I think if they had known what it was, because the climax of it is they had this massive chase between the soldier and the mother and her girls and the old man, and they've got the money truck in another vehicle, and they're hauling ass to leave and all that. The brother-in-law dies. He goes through this great lengths to save, and that's another aspect of just how tragic it is. After all his work to get him back, and then he dies. He gets shot. So, but anyway, so they had this chase scene, and at first, it's all right, and they're doing this and that to catch them, but it just gets over the top and crazy. And some of it's all CGI stuff, a lot of it anyway. But in some elements, it's just, oh, good Lord, that's a video game. It's a little too much light on it, I guess. And it just goes on and on and on, and it gets crazier and crazier and stuff like that. And plus, it's just the thugs chasing them. They would give up by then. They're losing men, they're losing vehicles, all to just teach these people a lesson. It didn't make any sense. And for one truck, when they didn't know what was in it. So if they had known that this was in it, and they could have, but I would understand how they figured it out at the last minute and said, holy crap, we got to get it. Something like that, but they didn't. And so so they all get killed. There is an earlier cool scene where he finds a bunch of zombies resting in this, sort of glass building, but they're all, and then he remembers that. And so he uses it, the soldier being the main character here, and uses it to just dump them on the bad guys, and they get what they got coming to them. So they get to the end, and then all the bad captain shows up and shoots the grandfather, shoots the mother, and eventually he does get the truck full of money and drives it onto the boat but not before he's shot and stuff. But he gets there, and then, of course, guess what? Well, the mobsters never really intended to share the money. So they shoot him. And so at the last bit, he releases the brake and puts it in reverse, and the truck goes back out, opens the doorway to the ship, and they're like, oh crap, just shut it, because here comes a horde of zombies. And that's it. The ship goes, and they're done. So they're sitting there, and they're like, oh crap, look at that, now we're stuck here in Korea and all that. And then a helicopter flies over. It's a UN helicopter, and they're like, holy crap, this could be our escape. So so they're chasing that, but the mother tells the soldier, and she knows who he is. He confesses that to her earlier. And so he said, get my daughters out of here. The old man's dead. And so he does, and of course they want to save mommy, but you can't. And he's running through it, so he makes it to the end, to the helicopter, and of course the woman officer on the helicopter is Janet, so she was real and all that. And so you think, well, that's it for the mother, and they drag it out forever. You think she's about to shoot herself within the truck, and as she gets in a truck to hide from the zombies, and they're covering it. Instead, no, she tries one more time, and so the soldier goes back to save her, and so you think, oh, he's going to sacrifice himself to save her. She's shot in the leg, so she can't run, but suddenly she's running fast enough. She's able to get out from this mob of zombies, and it falls apart there, certainly. It's one of the many over-the-top ridiculous nature of it, and which takes it leaps and bounds away from the original, which was more close to, well, I mean, reality. I mean, it's a zombie outbreak, but still. And so she makes it, and he makes it, and they get on the helicopter, and they live happily ever after. So, yeah, you see, there's a bit of a problem there. It's a little too much, but especially as it's setting up that he has to make amends for not helping them earlier. But I don't know. Well, God smiled on him and let him get, I guess he'll probably end up marrying her and raising the girls and stuff. But anyway, so back to Army of the Dead is, they handled the heist aspect of it much better. Now it's not really a heist movie because that's what gets them there. It ends up being more Mad Max to get out of it. But the idea that there's nothing as stupid as with Army of the Dead, where it was so obvious, the whole plot was really about getting one of the zombies for a sample to make super soldiers or some bullshit like that. And I mean, And all you had to do was just walk in the front part, get one of them, and leave. It was so stupid, and so many mistakes like that. There aren't any like that here. So it's not completely stupid. It's just a lot of over-the-top type stunts and stuff, and characters that just aren't all that believable. So it's that sort of thing. So it's much better than Army of the Dead. So it's there's aspects of it that's quite entertaining. So it's not that bad of a watch. It just in comparison to Train to Busan, which was just excellent, it's a distant cousin to to that one, and nowhere near on par of its level of excellence. But still, it had its fun moments. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.